Hey everyone, it's the Dr. Jason West Clinic Live program, and I'm so excited to share with you a real life success story. Brandon started off as a patient. He's still a patient, but he's also a friend. And spur of the moment, last thing, I was going to show some patient testimonial videos today, and then I just said, I'm going to ask him to see if he'll do it. And Brandon said, sure, he'll come on over. So I don't want to steal any thunder. And I want to clear up some housekeeping things. If you watch this video, you guys, you're going to get motivated and inspired because Brandon's a warrior. Like, he just refused to give up. It's so fun to see where he is at now compared to where he was at the beginning. And then we also have some really neat things that are happening next week, starting March 22nd. So, Clarissa, if you'll bring up the link and show people, like right here, we are having the last and final Healthness to Wellness Challenge. And what I mean by Healthness to Wellness Challenge is it's the last time we're doing it in this format, where we're having some crazy giveaways. We've got a new book. This is our third one. It's getting better and better each time. We also have some bonus materials on the COVID long haul, how to get over that, what to do with the right type of calcium, why it's so important for your immune system, and if you have calcium in the wrong place, why it's so bad for you. We've also got a better brain presentation and how to have natural hormone precursors in your body for energy and vitality. It's all right here in the link. It's free. Every week, every day next week, you're going to be live with me inside our presentation, our program, and there's a special way. So here's the link. It's the Healthness to Wellness Challenge. Clarissa, take the link away and bring up the video. Here it is, right here. So me and Brandon are superimposed on this, but next week we are just going to knock it out of the park. We have some really neat things that we're doing, and there's a contest winner where you can actually get the Thrivers program special. This is something that is so fun. It's a custom formulated program, and it's all next week. So just get on this link, and the way that you win the contest, it's so much easier when we do it before. We were having you do homework and some other things. It's not that at all. It's just about pure sharing, because we want to increase people's understanding of the services that are getting the miracles and stuff in the office. And so we just really want everybody to know about it. All you have to do is click on the link, and you'll see some other stuff on our social media and stuff later on. Now, that being said, let's go through this program right now, and let's get the background put together on this, and we'll kind of take it from there. Okay, so you guys, my guest on this program is Brandon, and Brandon we met how long ago?
I think about 2.5 years ago. Okay,
2.5 years ago. And it was a classic situation where someone came in and said, I'm not feeling very good. And we started walking through the process. I'm going to let him tell the story. And I told him, hey, to the extent that you're feeling comfortable, like, I'm going to let him decide what those parameters are. But I've seen this miraculous transformation. And not only it was a doctor-patient relationship. One of the things I love doing at the clinic is I just want to know how people really are. We got into a friend relationship. We've had some great philosophical discussions on how and what he's reading and what I'm reading, and it just kind of turned into this fun thing. And then when I saw him today, because I hadn't seen you for a while.
Yeah.
How long has it been since we saw you last?
It's been about 5 months.
Five months. And so it was just a neat story. But Brandon, to the extent that you're feeling comfortable, like, just tell people what you were working through before you came to the office, and how long you had been struggling with this.
Okay, so I got bit by a tick sometime probably in the middle of the year 2000, and so that was a long time ago. It was like over 20 years now, and I didn't really know what was going on. I had sort of this time where I got really, really sick, and it was like I had a stomach ache, but it was like all over my body, and I later found out that I also had, like, it was either 6 or 8 co-infections, and so I got chronic Lyme disease from that. I didn't get diagnosed until, wasn't able to get diagnosed until maybe 2006 or so, and so I got diagnosed then, but I wasn't able to get effective treatment for a long time, and by the time I was trying to go through the process of starting my adult life, and I was by the time that I had gotten a diagnosis, I was already so sick that I was kind of pretty far down in a hole. But the thing about Lyme is when you get really sick with it, it's kind of different than other diseases in one regard, in that a lot of times you get number, and your body's just so overloaded with stuff that, at least for me, I got number. And so I went sort of down in this hole, and then I actually, over the course of time, I went. I think that Dr. J was my 17th doctor, actually, is what I understand or remember.
So Brandon, on that, and I'm sorry to jump in, but tell people, like, during this process, so you got sick in 2000, and you started you're going downhill, and you were getting deeper and deeper, number. What were some of the medical diagnosis and medical treatments before our paths crossed, but what were some of those? So I want people to understand, because you're not alone on going through this pathway.
I think that one doctor, they were entertaining the idea of multiple sclerosis. Another, I think of that same doctor, I was treated for chronic fatigue. And I can't remember the co-infections, but I think there was like all the classic co-infections of like Bartonella and Babesia. I think it was a long time ago. But and then I went to a sleep apnea doctor. I also went to a neurologist for neuropathy, and then I think a rheumatologist as well. I mean, you just sort of run the gamut, right? It was
right. So the doctors are saying, okay, maybe you don't have autoimmune multiple sclerosis, so maybe it's this. So you go from this specialist to this specialist to this specialist, which I gotta say, like, it's gotta be disheartening and frustrating to be shuffled.
Yeah, I mean, it was rough. I know that a lot of the doctors were doing their best, but Lyme is a really complex illness if you don't know how to treat it, and it has a ton of symptoms that can be misdiagnosed as other diseases, and so that led to the complexity of it. It also sort of puts you in just like when you're pretty sick with it, it puts you in a state that you're kind of out of it somewhat, and it's harder to you don't have as much of your ability to analyze and think through things to be able to figure out, okay, to be your own clinician and figure out what's going on and find out your next step.
So we call Lyme disease the great imitator, and so why I think it's so important to hear stories like this, because whether it's Epstein-Barr or it's C. diff or it's a staph infection, what it does is it gets into your system, and then it just starts to drain your energy. And then if you put 40 people into a room, you're going to have 40 different presentations. Someone's going to have joint problems, someone's going to have anxiety and depression, someone's going to have heart problems, someone might have all of them. It frequently attacks the nerves, it attacks the joints, and whether it's Lyme disease or whether it's Epstein-Barr or whether it is like literally human herpes simplex 1, which is the cold sore virus, or 6 or 7 or cytomegalovirus, and now we've got the virus from China, what it does is it makes your nerves behave differently. It causes neurodegeneration. It can get inside your head and make you wonder, is it me? And I don't know if any of your doctors said, well, Brandon, you just must be depressed. Here, take a happy pill.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that there was a clear, like 100% willingness to believe the seriousness of what I was going through on multiple people's parts. And I think that it doesn't have a flashy name like some illnesses, and any suffering is horrible, right? Any suffering is horrible. But one of the additional burdens of Lyme disease is that people don't understand how serious it is. And you can actually get sort of, have it minimized and written off. And that's extra discouraging, because you're like, I know what I'm dealing with is real, but I can't prove it. And how do I make the next step forward on my journey to get better? So. And one of those steps was obviously you.
Okay, so you're working through the pathway. You have at least a decade and a half of not feeling very well. You're seeing the different specialists, and you decide, I'm going to go to the booming megatropolis of Pocatello. Like, what brought you to the railroad town in Idaho?
I'd actually, so in those specialists, I'd been to a number of doctors who promoted themselves as Lyme literate, and I'd had a little bit of success in getting better, but I basically had just taken time off and like from treating. It was just kind of like, I've done my part, I need to just focus on some other things. And so eventually I just my family felt, we heard about you from a friend who'd been up here, and it's just kind of like this thought kept persisting, and so we decided to give it a shot. I think the thing that kept me from coming up here was I was sort of just like jaded, right? I was super jaded, and you remember that. But
for sure, and by the way, like this happens so many times when people aren't feeling very well for a long time and have been through the system, and they're kind of round pegs that are trying to stick in square holes, like they don't fit all of the criteria. And so what happens, and especially with our first workup, is people are protecting themselves. And what I mean by that is when they come in and you're listening to, hey, we're going to put everything in balance and we're going to reset the nerves and we want to stimulate your immune system and we want to give you the nutrients that you need, what happens is people are like, I just don't want to get my hopes up. And so you kind of put up this wall, and it happens like hundreds of times. And as a matter of fact, I had a workup with a patient today, and I said, look, I have way higher expectations than you do. And the reason why you're cautious and you want to believe but you're scared to is you just don't want to get your hopes dashed. And I tell people, it's okay to start there. I just want you to make sure that you're not closed-minded. So we start working together, and what are some of the treatments that we're doing? And then how do you feel in this progression?
Well, right now I feel amazing. I mean, I have my life back, and that is really awesome. Like, I mean, I never gave up hope that I would get better, but there was part of my brain that was pretty cynical. Like, I never gave up. I never gave up the feeling that I had the responsibility to get better. But I guess maybe on a logical level, it just felt like it was never going to happen. And so a lot of the treatments that we've worked to get me where I'm at, probably the most central has been the vitamin C IVs that you do. Those have been super helpful. One of the things that we've added to that's been really crucial, I think, because of a particular genetic mutation that I have, has been glutathione. That's been really helpful too. I've noticed a big difference once we started adding that.
And Brandon, with that, so one of the things that's fun working with Brandon is we make plans together. Not like, I'm not saying, hey, we're going to do this, because you've become this amazing researcher into your own health. And I always tell people, look, like we want to merge forces. And so you go to town on chronic infection and Lyme disease and nerve health, and you are not a newbie in that area. So walk us through kind of like what was the momentum behind researching, and where did you find glutathione? And of course, for people listening, glutathione is this amazing antioxidant that binds up with toxins. And literally, I kind of call it the mouse medicine. And what I mean by that is, you look at where mice live in the sewers and garbage dumps and in some dirty places, and how do they survive and not get sick? Well, they have huge amounts of glutathione. People just have lesser amounts of glutathione. So when Brandon said, what would you think about that? I'm like, hey, let's add it and let's go after it. But where did you find it?
I started looking into the MTHFR gene mutation, and I looked at that, and then I looked at people who had Lyme disease and MTHFR, and I realized that there's an extra level of seriousness there, because those people have a reduced ability to eliminate toxins from their body, and that everything that I had done indicated that toxin elimination was one of the things that my body was really struggling with. And so that when I came across that, and it was like, I mean, like the Lyme diagnosis was awesome. It was, but the MTHFR diagnosis was kind of like the frosting on the cake, for lack of a better way of putting it, right? Because it was like, oh, this is an extra impediment that I have that's making Lyme disease worse, and so I can remove this extra brick off my back to.
So for people watching, we're going through Brandon's story. He's been sick for literally 20 years. Now he just said, if you haven't heard it, he feels amazing. Like now we're just like, hey, let's just keep you dialed in. So it's a really fun place for me to be. I know it's a fun place for him to be. And he became a researcher into, what's wrong. He finds this genetic mutation, which is difficult for people to detox things and to assimilate and utilize B vitamins. It's called MTHFR. And people can have a genetic, most people don't even know they have it until they start researching it. But some conditions, especially infections, it makes it really, really difficult to clean up the cellular debris after your immune system kicks in and finds bad guys and destroys them. And the body kind of doesn't know what to do with them. And in some regards, and this is no slight or dig on Brandon, it's like your body's a clogged toilet and you can't get it to drain. And glutathione literally is the drainer. It helps to get that stuff outside the system. So we start doing glutathione. We're doing this vitamin C treatments. Is there anything else that we were doing that was helping you?
Yeah, I can't remember what they're called, but the treatments, the injections, those were really awesome. Like I got a series of those, I think 10 or 15 of them, and those were really helpful. Put me calm and stuff like that. And then, so the vitamin B was also really helpful. I remember the first time I took that, like the next morning I woke up and I was like, whoa, what's going on? There's, like I've been this calm and relaxed since a long time ago. So that was really helpful as well.
So we're looking at what basically how to put people back together. And one of those things is that we want to make sure that we're giving people the vitamins that they need. And the vitamins that they need, what he's talking about, is there's this special B complex. And B complex is not that word. There's this special B combination. Because there's 30 B vitamins. There's B1, B2, B3. So riboflavin, niacin, and thiamine. I said it backwards. Thiamine's B1, riboflavin B2, niacin B3, B5, B6, B12, with folic acid. Like everybody knows about those. But there's also vitamin B number 4 and B6 and B7 and B8 and B17. And when you have all of them, what happens is it nourishes the nervous system. And that's why Brandon was saying, hey, where's all the chatter? Where's all the anxiety and stuff? Because now the nervous system, because it has this common gene defect, it was just off. And it was throwing you off into tilt. And then when he's talking about the neural therapy, we talk about this every single time. Neural therapy helps to get the nerves to open and to close and to reset. And we're trying to reset his nerve pathways because I would argue that when you came in to see me, Brandon, your body didn't remember what it's like to be healthy. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, more than fair.
All right, now my producer, Caden, raises his hand.
Your mic is muted.
And my mic is muted, so we're not hearing it very well. Oh my gosh. So let me get this on. Can you hear me a little bit through Brandon?
Yeah.
Okay, so my batteries are out. That's why it's off. It's okay. We're gonna fix this. Slight technical delay, you guys, but I'll just talk really loud. We're good here. So they're getting me some new batteries that we can put together. So you guys, going through the story, it's so common to see this of someone that has been beat up, not only by infections and everything else, but they beat up inside of the healthcare system, been told these different things. He decides to come to the booming megatropolis of Pocatello, Idaho, and in that process, we start on a program of immune system and neural therapy, and we start putting it back together. And Brandon, when we first started 2.5 years ago, we started working. We started with the treatments, how much longer did it take before you started noticing a difference?
I started noticing a difference almost immediately. I mean, literally within a day. It was the next morning I woke up when the vitamin B happened, and I was sort of on the edge. That cynicism had creeped in, and I was like, well, I might go up, and I'm going to go for one IV, and we'll see what happens. And then after a few days of the first IV, I was like, I got to go back, and I kind of feel like an addict to IVs. I think that's a good thing in this case. But and so let's see, what was the question again?
Well, just like we started the program, we started feeling better the next day. And then I think we started incrementally feeling better. I think there was a little bit of roller coasters in there.
Yeah.
So tell people kind of about the journey of once, okay, I know that I'm on a good pathway, and then how are you managing your emotions and your health as we're going through this?
I think in my case, there was some roller coaster, and it was in large part because I'd been sick for so long. A lot of what I feel like I've been dealing with, and especially with the gene mutation we talked about, I just had built up toxins in my body. And so I was trying to battle the illness that was alive in my body, but also the leftover toxins from years of buildup that hadn't been able to cleanse themselves out. And so, anyone who has Lyme knows about the Herxheimer-Jerich's reaction, and when you're letting off that stuff, it's not a pretty picture. So there were some rough days, but dealing with the emotions and stuff. I guess what I'd say is that you have to look at your health from a holistic point of view. There's definitely something called spiritual health and emotional health and mental health that you have to deal with, and it works in tandem with your physical health. You can't make progress, in my experience, you can't really make really massive progress on the physical side of things if you're not dealing with your spiritual life and your emotional life and your mental health practices.
And I said that a couple times because one of the fun things working with Brandon is he would come in and say, I'm studying this guy, I'm reading this guy. So for people out there listening with a chronic disease, whether they're in Florida or they're in Texas or they're in Idaho or Utah, what is your advice as far as navigating, like who has made an impact for you? Because I like to say, I'm a body doc, we work on the physical side, and I recognize like this ton of work that you've done on the spiritual and emotional and mental side. So who are some of your heroes over there that you would recommend for people that are trying to navigate this process and wondering if they're crazy, and it's lonely to have a sickness like this because everybody around you is saying, hey, do this. Your neighbor's saying, hey, try this magic treatment or this magic doctor, and your spouse and your cousins and your friends and your church community is all telling you to do stuff. So who's your heroes over there?
So Dr. Klinghardt I think he practices somewhere in the Northwest, it might be in Seattle, I'm not sure. But I came across, it was maybe 10 years ago, a PDF from him that was online that was called the 5 Levels of Healing. And it talked about sort of this paradigm that I've shared about spiritual and emotional and mental health and how they all go together, and how some sort of event in your spiritual life can work its way into eventually a physical health problem, and it goes through an emotional health to a mental issue and then into your physical, but it can also work the other way around. You can have some sort of physical trauma and it can affect you spiritually, and so that framework, even though it wasn't like the most in-depth PDF, it was 3 to 5 pages, it gave me an overall paradigm for understanding these sorts of things. And I think that, how do I say this? Whatever, like one of the keys, foundations for healing in my experience is not that people have done something wrong, but whatever they need to do to grow closer to God, honestly, and to strengthen their spiritual health and relationship. However it is that they understand God, they need to develop that relationship, because the thing is like Dr. J was talking about, is that there's all these outside sources and they're going to give you information. And I went to 17 doctors, and while I made some progress, none of them were like the capstone for me that really put me over the top. And so you need to connect with your own intuition, with your own spiritual guidance to understand where you need to go and what you need to do. And I know that those answers, they don't always come as quickly as anyone would like. And I just say, don't give up hope. See if there's something that you can find to learn from the situation that you're in. If there's a lesson that is a blessing in disguise. I know that's really hard. It's really hard to say that because I know how discouraging it was, because I was there for many years. But if there's something you can learn and figure out, what do I need to learn from this? And so look at it as an opportunity to learn something rather than something that's holding you back. And then I think something everyone can relate to is just the principle of gratitude. Now that I have my life back, what I can say is that the thing that the perspective that I have that I'm really grateful for, and that I feel like I have to maybe to a unique degree, is that every moment that I have is a gift. And if I maintain that perspective, I'm not saying I do perfectly, I have my moments just like everyone else, but it relieves all of my emotional and mental burdens. And if I know that if I remember that God is with me walking through the day, I don't have to carry everything alone, and it helps affect those issues of the physical burdens that I'm dealing with regards to my health. It alleviates them because it lightens emotional, spiritual, and mental burdens as well. So
that's just awesome. Like, I could listen to him all day. I've learned so much from him. My son, who's wanting to go into healthcare, was saying, Dad, how do you know all this stuff? And I said, look, I learned a lot in school. And I've learned tons more from being in the trenches 21 years and listening to stories like this. And this is one of the reasons I enjoyed visiting with Brandon, because he'd say, look, You got to line up with yourself. You've got to learn, be a good person as far as my relationship with the Supreme Being. And I don't want to go into places where it's private for him, but it's been phenomenal. So he's on this mental, spiritual journey, and then we start dumping in the vitamin C infusions. We do some neural therapy. We give him the right vitamins, and then as you go through the roller coaster, and the big breakthrough we started 2.5 years ago, when you're like, hey, I really think that I'm over the hump, was when?
I think probably like 6 months ago was like where I felt like I've had some rough moments and stuff, but I knew like about 6 months ago that I was on a downhill slope of the journey, if that makes sense. Like I had momentum and my body was healing itself. And that's why, I haven't been in for an IV since early October. And it's because basically it just sort of catapulted like a slinky going down the stairs, right? It's just like that last IV that I got, it was like long enough to last for those months, and I just kept getting better and better and better. So, yeah.
So Brandon, with that, we're doing stuff in the office. You're learning your spiritual journey. What would you tell people as far as like some of the nice takeaways from a lifestyle standpoint, as far as like what could you do at home, or what you could eat, or what that you were taking outside of the office that was helping you? Because I know you got some gold over there too.
Yeah, probably a couple things. Like this is really basic, but super basic, but it's really important. And I think with Lyme, it's harder to implement, but you got to cut out sugar out of your diet. Like you look at any practice of health and you hear there's all sorts of diets and stuff. And what you don't realize that when you practice a particular diet is if you're eating mainstream food from the grocery store, sugar's been baked into everything. And that's the real problem. So the way to get away from sugar is go to fruit, just straight fruits and straight vegetables, and lean meats, things like that. But the point is it's like there's all this stuff out there in the grocery store that's processed, etc. And what you don't realize is that the hidden tax in all of that food is sugar. And with Lyme in particular, like occasionally I violate my own advice and have a little bit of soda, which I try to keep under control. But I know, I'm sorry.
I'm just joking with you.
But here's the thing. I notice within like 20 minutes of drinking a soda, I can feel the Lyme, and I can feel it getting active, and I can feel it getting excited. And it's like, so the feedback loop is really, really, really tight for people with Lyme disease. But the problem with Lyme, when you have, at least for me, I think this is pretty broad, is that your body craves it more. And so it's kind of a harder challenge. You have to get your body out of an addiction to sugar. And when the modern society, we're all sort of in a slightly comatized state with our addiction to sugar. And you have to break that cycle, and you have to look at it like sugar is a drug, right? And you have to take that sort of stance on it, and you have to figure a way to break that addiction to that drug.
So and by the way, it's not just Lyme disease that sugar has an impact on. It's the virus from China, it's the Epstein-Barr virus, it's cytomegalovirus, it's staph infections, it's strep infections, it's C. diff, it's E. coli, it's parasites, it's amoebas, it's fungus and yeast. Like all of them are trying to survive, and they survive through sugar. And so what a fun episode that we've been able to have, inviting Brandon on the set to do the program. Again, what's fun about this is to tell people and show people, like, you're not alone. Like, there's so many stories just like Brandon's of people coming in. I was told today I was Dr. 23, I've been Dr. 17, I think my record's Dr. 27, that's how many healthcare providers people would see before they got here. And what we do that helps people is we just want to put everything in balance. Vitamin C donates electrons to the body. The ozone therapy donates oxygen. The neural therapy resets the body. The right B vitamin to take orally is so important for your mental state. And then Brandon's journey through the spiritual and emotional and self-help, like, it's just one of the funnest stories ever. When I saw him in the office today, he said, I haven't been here for almost 6 months. And I said, how you doing? He said, I feel really good. I'm amazing. And I said, well, of course, like, you're amazing. So you guys, that being said, Brandon, any last minute takeaways for anybody watching this in different parts of the world or close to us? Your advice on health, or if they have a chronic infection, what would you tell
What I'd say is don't lose hope. There's a lot of people out there that are suffering silently, and they're suffering in ways that aren't super visible, and they are suffering in ways that other people don't understand. And just don't lose hope. Someone's looking out for you, and you can do this, and you can make it. Even if other people don't understand it, even if you're critiqued or said it's not as big of a deal, or you spend too much time talking about it or worrying about it or bringing it to other people's attentions, don't worry about that. Listen to the voices of positivity in your life, and you will find solutions, and you'll find them in ways that will be best for you, and you'll find them at the right time to balance that growth spiritually and physically.
So you guys, to wrap up, Clarissa, come show the background. Remember, right here in the link, this is the Wellness to Wellness program. This is what we're getting ready to kick off next week, March 22nd through the 25th at 5 o'clock. We have an incredible slate of helping you to understand barriers to healing, what you can do for better brain health, the natural precursors to hormone balance therapy, and then what you can do, what treatments you should know about if you have chronic illness, and what things that you can do at home. It's incredible. It's a Wellness to Wellness, 3rd time's the charm. It's the last way that we're doing it this way. We have a grand prize giveaway that you can get all the information just right here in the link. Sorry, I got to go point this way. Man, I'm making a mess of that. Anyway, I just want to give a special thanks to Brandon for coming on the show last minute. And it's tough to get in front of the camera with a little red X and talk to it, and he did a fabulous job on that. And it's just fun to be on the sideline, seeing someone that's taken control of their life. Like I tell Brandon, I'm the coach. Like you're the all-star player. You've done so much work over there. I'm excited that I was a part of it. On behalf of Brandon and myself, Dr. West, here's to your energy, balance, longevity. Remember, live, don't exist, and you're not your diagnosis. I love Brandon's talk about vitamin H, never give up hope. We'll see you guys next week, same time, same channel. We're out.